Hey Cindy, how are you today?
Doing good.
Good. This is my friend Cindy. She is definitely a maker, so I'm featuring her on our Monday Makers today. And she is a crochet artist. She may not think of herself as an artist, but I certainly do. Cindy always has crochet needles and yarn every time I see her. She does put it down when she's in the choir and she picks up the hymnal. But other than that, she's always crocheting. It's like she's breathing. So I want to invite her today and just share all of her wonderful artwork that she's done. I was recently in the hospital and Cindy knitted me this prayer blanket, which was a godsend. And it just was a wonderful memory and it just made me feel like all the people at home were praying for me, and it just made me feel so much better. So I wanted to thank you very much publicly for that. So Cindy, tell me how you got started in crocheting.
I had a next door neighbor in Virginia that was, her mother made a lot of her clothes and stuff, and she crocheted. She was in the military, and she taught me. I was in ninth grade.
Okay.
And I'm left-handed, but she was right-handed, so I learned how to crochet right-handed.
Okay.
Of course, later on, my mom, who's left-handed, learned left-handed, and then she has to try to ask me to show her how to do something, and everything was backwards.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So any left-handers, I encourage to, if you're just learning, to try to do it right-handed.
Okay, all right.
And
so what was one of the first things you crocheted?
I made a vest.
Did you?
A la Maud.
Ah.
Years ago. It was a crochet vest, tie in the middle, 60s.
Nice.
Early 70s.
Did you wear it to school?
I did.
Yes. And what kind of compliments did you get?
Not really.
No? You are above your time already. And then how did your interest in that grow?
Well, actually, I did not learn how to read patterns until I was in nursing school, because the lady that taught me was Japanese.
Okay.
And she learned by pictures. So, and now people are learning with graphs and pictures and stuff, and YouTube, and not really learning how to read the pattern so much. So that's getting to be a lost art.
Ah, I see.
But I learned how to read patterns in nursing school, and I went on from there, making little projects to big projects.
Right.
I like to make all my gifts when I can.
Right.
And sometimes they get behind. I wrapped 2 granny squares up one time for a friend of mine and gave them to her with an IOU. And she opened it up. She says, "Ooh, pot holders."
There you go.
I said, "Well, they're going to be a blanket sometime soon."
Sometime soon. When I was little, someone crocheted my mom around, and it said "to it" on it. So when you get around to it, you can get your stuff done. So you have 3 grown children that are wonderful, beautiful girls. And so what did you crochet for them when they were growing up?
Well, actually, I had put it down for a while.
Okay. Busy mom.
Busy mom.
Busy nurse.
And I started back when they were teenagers.
Okay.
And I taught my oldest, and she crocheted just enough to be able to make herself a pillow and say, "I did that."
All right.
And she put it down. The second one, my middle daughter, she can do, or she can keep on going if I get her started. But she's really didn't get into it that much. She just wanted what Mama made. And the youngest, I get the prototypes.
Ah, I see.
Anything I would learn something new, she says, I get the practice one.
There you go.
And she's claimed my it's called Flora and Fauna.
Oh.
My crochet along, and it's different woodland creatures and stuff with ladybugs, hedgehogs, snails.
I can't wait to see that.
And but she's claimed that. She's claimed a lot of stuff, because I used to buy some of the yarn in, they had millions that it was some of the cake yarn that they had, didn't have enough of to make a whole cake.
Okay.
They couldn't sell it, so they package them up in pieces. So it wasn't, each one was kind of different. And when I got my first group, she says, "I want those colors. I want you to make me something.
Something.
And
well, I know that Cindy asked my husband what colors were my favorite, and that's why my prayer blanket is purple and teal. So very beautiful. So what's been your biggest project, and how long did that take you?
Well, actually, I found unfinished projects from years ago that I ended up, like one I finished off and gave to Miss Nadine.
Okay.
And I found one that I hate to put together granny squares anymore. If I make something with a granny square, it's usually one big, huge one.
One big, huge granny square?
And that way you don't have to put it together, because when I get finished something, I want to be finished.
I see. Yep, I understand.
I can do a little embellishment, something like that, add to, but I want to be finished.
Right. And some artists are like that, right? They don't go back to their paintings. They're done.
I had one that I just ended up pitching.
Did you?
It was just these tiny squares, about 2.5 inches, 3 inches in diameter, and each one, or they had 3 different colors, and you put it together in a certain pattern.
Right.
And I just got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It was like a long time ago project, and I have a lot of work in progress bags.
That's good though, right?
And
you can
that's
go back
one
to
thing.
it.
I do put the crochet hook I used with the project in the project bag.
All right.
So I know what size, because I have been known to keep going like 10 inches of a blanket with the wrong size and have to tear it back out.
Oh no. So tell me a little bit more about that for people who might not know about crocheting, or they know what crocheting is, but they don't really know how something is made.
Well, there's a lot of beginner YouTube videos that's what people learn from a lot. Now, my sister did.
Okay.
And
she can stop and start, stop and
right.
start. Yeah.
And it's most of there's so many out there that you can find one that you can follow.
Okay.
In fact, I did one of my projects over here that I followed a YouTube video with one lady, and it was her, I think she called it the State of Grace blanket, and she does a lot. She does some teaching different places. I think she's in South Carolina, but her name is Bonnie Barker.
Okay.
And it's Bonnie Bay Crochet, and she's a real good instructor.
All right. And
she has that. I like to. Well, I have certain people that I follow that I've made blankets from their patterns, and it's just amazing. I like to watch how they turn out, because I like surprises.
Right.
I like to keep on going and say, oh, that's the way it looks.
Right.
It's supposed to look like that.
Awesome.
And it works out real good.
So tell me, the crochet hook, the size depends on the stitch?
It depends on the stitch, and I have gotten into such a habit, I can't use the pretty ones. I have to use the cheap Susan Bates inline hook, because I have I guess it's finger memory.
Right.
That I have to have the flat part in a certain area on my hand, and I can go to town.
Right.
If I try to use something different, it slows me down.
You actually have to think about it, right?
I have to think about it.
Like I said, it's almost like breathing for you.
I've done a few that they call it a mystery crochet along.
Oh, interesting.
And I made a baby blanket out of that for a friend in the Coast Guard. And I used a different kind of hook for it. And the real mystery crochet along is you don't get a picture of the project.
Okay.
It tells you to do a certain amount of rows in these
certain
colors. And then people will post on their little Facebook page where the crochet along comes from, and they'll say, this is how mine looks. And they tell you to use a certain weight yarn.
Okay.
And they have a DK, which is a lightweight, a worsted weight, which is more of a sweater. This is worsted weight.
Yes, you can tell it's kind of like a blanket that you can feel.
And so I used the
weighted. I was trying to say
the lighter weight in this mystery, And then I saw how some other people were doing it, and maybe I can do it that way. I can use 2 different colors and do 1 row, 1 color, and then keep on going. And
so inspiration comes from everywhere. Awesome. So what are you going to be planning on in the future?
Well, I'm working on my woodland creatures, the flora and fauna.
Okay.
And I am going back. 2 of my the makers or creators are from the Northwest.
Okay.
One's from Washington, one's from Oregon. Lindsay George, I think she's Oregon, and her patterns have a cause. One of them that I have over here is called Self Checks, and it's about medical checkups.
Okay.
What she has in her pattern reasons to do breast exams.
Okay.
And then they have different other things that you ought to be checking on each time.
Yeah.
One of them that I have at home, it's called Lithium, and her son swallowed a little button battery and went through. He was about 3 and went through a lot of procedures at the hospital getting it out because you swallow a penny. It comes out in the wash.
Right.
Well, the lithium battery lets out some of the stuff and it can be corrosive.
Wow.
And they had to get it out of his esophagus. So this one is called Lithium, and it's got it looks like little, there's little figures on there. Reminds me of Little Robot Man.
Yeah.
And it's all in the round, so it goes from, like this one, it goes from the middle and work out. And so each row has a certain number of the little figures on it.
That's so neat. I never thought you could, but definitely use your art to push a cause.
And then my other friend, Shelby Shea, she's from Washington. And of course, she's gotten away from some of her blanket patterns, but I tested a lot of them for her. And now she's getting into the using the blanket yarn, which is really thick and cushy, and she's making little stuffed animals. And she sells it on her Etsy page.
Nice. So tell us, what's the difference between crocheting and knitting?
Knitting is 2 needles, and I don't know where to start with knitting. But I have heard that if you crochet, it's easier to transition to knitting because I've seen people crochet that look like they probably were knitters because you throw over your yarn.
Okay.
In knitting, you throw over, and while you're knitting, that's what you do with it. And crochet, you grab your yarn, and it's a more fluid movement.
Okay.
So they said, if you go from crochet to knit, it's easier and I've seen people crochet, it looks like they throw over their yarn when they do it.
So they were knitters or crocheters.
And then I use a pencil hold on my hook, which they say that that's the more awkward way to do it than the knife hold. You can either hold it like you're holding a knife or holding it like you're holding a pencil.
Okay.
And
I think that would be easier for me too. So this is a family heirloom. It's a bedspread.
Right.
And can you tell me, was this crocheted or knitted?
It was definitely crocheted.
Okay.
And it's bottom side upward.
Is it? It's backwards, she said.
That's all right. You could tell because that is the back of the stitches right here.
Okay. So let's turn it over a little
Right.
bit.
So you can see it looks a little more. In fact, I saw on Crochet Book page, on the front page, they had a person in a granny square sweater that was inside out.
So is this granny squares? What are these?
It's a kind of square.
Okay.
But they're motifs.
Oh, okay. Because they're round like this?
Right. They're round to a square. But it looks like, these are, it's sort of like doily patterns.
Okay, right.
It's made with crochet thread. It's a little bit thicker than the crochet thread you use on doilies. But
that definitely looks like a giant
see,
doily.
this is a little square right here.
Right.
And it looks like this may have been a hexagon.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
But when put together, it kind of comes out
right
oval, right? So I believe that's over 100 years old. I'll have to check with my mother-in-law, but She is our historian for our family. So, do you want to give any encouraging words to people who might want to start crocheting, and what's the basic and maybe the cheapest way they could do that?
Cheapest way is to go to Walmart and get, well, of course, Walmart only carries boy hooks, which are boy hooks are where everybody uses, B-O-Y-E.
Okay.
You either get Boy or Susan Bates. You can get Susan Bates at Hobby Lobby or Michael's.
Okay.
And but get you a cheap hook. And cheap yarn. And go to
YouTube.
A YouTube video. They have some that just look up super slow, really, really beginner crochet.
And that'll be there. Awesome.
And you start with a chain, and I tell people that rather than do a long chain like for a blanket, because a chain is the hardest thing to get even, because people want to go too tight, too loose. So rather
then you
than
have
a
a
chain,
diagonal line, right?
do a granny square.
Okay.
Go from the middle. You won't have to do but like 3 or 4 chains,
Right.
and then you can start and build out.
Very good. That's some great advice. So we're going to go ahead and move over to some of Cindy's beautiful artwork that she's done, and we'll see you in just a second. All right, so Cindy's going to show us a lot of her work and kind of explain a little bit about it. What she's holding now is one called My Baby Boy. Is that what you said?
Precious Baby Boy.
Precious Baby Boy. So talk to us a little bit about that.
This is out of worsted weight yarn, and it's a mosaic. And the pattern is easy to follow. It just takes a little while. It's a little thick for a baby blanket, but it can be used for a cover or put it on the floor for tummy time. And
I asked you, how do you transition from one color to another?
Each row is a separate color. You start off with one end with the light, and the main color that you see, the motifs are out of double crochet, and you've got the single crochet behind it of the other color.
Okay.
This is what I'm doing, the same designer.
So this is your flora and fauna.
Right.
And
it's got...
Is that like a hedgehog or an armadillo?
Ladybugs, snails, hedgehogs, acorns, and squirrels are going to be coming next when I get the next row on Friday.
Wow, that's going to be awesome. I can see why your daughter wants it.
This is Bonnie Bay Crochet. It was her popcorn scarf. And
so how easy was that to do?
This was easy, pretty easy, and it's they call it a confident beginner.
Okay.
And it's worked from side to side, so you start with a really long chain, and then you follow. It's a they call it Celtic crochet, which is they call these are arrows, and then they have like the fisherman's net.
Okay. Yes.
But in crochet.
Okay.
And you get cables and popcorns and baubles, and it just makes a pleasing pattern.
Yes. What a great gift too.
This is from my friend in Oregon, Lindsay George, and this is how I started on mosaic.
Okay.
Because she was doing different ways to. There's inlay. There's different words with it, but the way she did it, there was some extra chains on the back, so people were concerned about babies getting their little toes stuck in them. So I did, when I learned a little more, I used a different technique that hid all that.
So there weren't any knots or anything
right,
like that.
no knots. And little girl blanket.
Yes, it's beautiful.
This is one of Lindsay's that I transitioned because this was going to be a side to side, and it was before I started with the tails out. So I tried doing this in the round, which is starting from the middle and working out. and I had to sort of transcribe the pattern so it would work.
It has a Native American vibe to me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make it work so it had corners instead of straight lines.
I see.
It was supposed to have hearts, but I'm doing hearts in our next group.
There you go.
This here is a very, very simple pattern. It's called moss stitch, and it's just single crochet and chain all the way, and it starts from the middle, and it's using blanket yarn, so you have to use a really big hook.
So is that all those colors are going to be in one yarn ball? Okay.
You can either get a solid color or what you call a variegated or striped.
Okay.
And this is really soft and cushy.
Yes,
so it makes it nice for a baby.
Yes.
And it's another one that's kind of heavy for down south, but you can use it on the floor.
Yeah.
And keep the baby away from all the
whatever's
stuff
on the floor.
Right.
Yes.
And this is one of Bonnie Bae Crochet's designs. This was a State of Grace blanket. Okay. Now this is where you can see her cables and everything. That
yes,
go up.
That's beautiful.
She had one stitch that I couldn't get to make look right. Mm-hmm. So I changed it.
Did you?
I added my own to it and did a few extra of these
like little popcorns.
Cables.
Yeah.
Right. This is cable.
Okay.
It's a drawn out popcorn.
Okay.
And I did that instead, and I think it looked pretty good. And this is one of Shelby Shea from Washington. It's her. No, actually it wasn't. This was one of the Hooked on Sunshine's patterns. This is a whatchamacallit. Okay. She's named her stuff in different
cute names.
Right. Like people are always asking, who are you making this for? And so she has a pattern called For. And
okay.
It made for Mama. For my young. But they have different ways to go. And I have, this is one of Shelby's.
That you're working on?
No, it's not. It's another whatchamacallit. I hate to leave Shelby out. But she's left me out just a little bit because she's doing her little stuffed animals with the blanket yarn. And I do a lot of requested, these are koozies that you can put on your cup. My girls' night out group uses them at every restaurant we go to.
Nice.
To keep a cup sweat off your hands.
Very nice, yes.
So we put these on and it gets wet and on the inside, not much on the outside, and you can throw it in the washer and the dryer.
Now you didn't bring a lot of your dresses that you've made because you've given them away.
Right.
So I know that you knit dresses and for your 2 granddaughters, lots of girls in your family.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my sister has all boys, and they had no boy cousins.
Oh, wow.
But 2 of her boys have a boy and a girl each.
Okay, all right. And what is that?
This is a mug rug.
Okay.
That it's bigger than a coaster, but smaller than a placemat.
Okay, that'd be a good place to start for someone.
And you can use these to test out patterns.
Oh, nice.
In fact, I did one with my ladybugs for the kids in the Bible school. I gave them each one a mug rug and said, this is for you, but you have to give it away.
Nice, nice. Hi lovelies, thanks for watching our Monday Makers today. I've got my little koozie at the beach here, and I just wanted to thank Cindy again for sharing her artistry with us. This will be over on our YouTube channel and on Instagram and Facebook. I'll be adding all the links that Cindy talked about in the comments below in this post. Don't forget to share with all your friends who might find this interesting. God bless, and don't forget, add a little smidge of sparkle to your day.